Hello, my dear students. Today we are going to discuss our literature chapter, that is The Daffodil Case by Ruskin Bond. So, before explaining the chapter, I would like to give you some basic information about the author. As we all know, that Ruskin Bond is an Indian author of British descent. In his childhood, he spent most of his time in Missouri. He has written more than 300 stories only for children. He got Padma Bhushan Award in 2014. Previously, he was awarded the Sahitya Akademi Award and Padma Shri. The Daffodil Case is a beautiful short story written by Ruskin Bond. It's having the perfect blend of nature, adventure, thrill, and suspense. In this story, famous detective Sherlock Holmes team up with the author Ruskin Bond, who was commissioned by BBC to solve a case of stealing daffodil flowers. So, dear students, do you know what is BBC? The full form of BBC is British Broadcasting Corporation. BBC is the world's oldest and the largest public service broadcaster that makes programs for television, radio, and internet. Now, let's have a short introduction of Sherlock Holmes. Sherlock Holmes is a fictional private detective created by British author Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Holmes is known for his proficiency, logical reasoning, and so on. Now, let's start discussing the chapter line by line. It was a foggy day in March that found me idling along Baker Street with my hands in my pockets, a scarf wound round my neck, and two pairs of socks on my feet. The BBC had commissioned me to give a talk on village life in India, and ambling along Baker Street in the fog, thinking of my talk, I realized I didn't really know much about village life in India. True, I could remember the smell of cow dung smoke and the scent of jasmine and the flood waters lapping at the walls of mud houses. But I didn't know much about village electorates and that sorts of things. So, here Ruskin Bond explains that he was moving along Baker Street. It was a foggy day in March, so the author wore scarf and socks along with having hands in the pockets. He was thinking of his talk for which BBC had commissioned him. And what was the topic? The topic was village life in India. That time he realized that he was completely aware of the rural conditions and livings of the people, but he was unaware of the positive aspects of the village life, such as education and so on. I was on the point of turning back and making my way to India House to get a few facts and figures when I realized I wasn't on Baker Street anymore. Wrapped in thought, I had wandered into Regent's Park, and now I wasn't sure of the way out. A tall gentleman wearing a long grey cloak was stooping over a flower bed, and going up to him, I said, "Excuse me, sir, can you tell me how I get out of here?" "How did you get in?" he asked me in an impatient voice, and when he turned and faced me, I received a severe shock. He wore a peaked hunting cap, and in one hand he held a large magnifying glass. He possessed a long, steely jaw, and his eyes had a fierce expression. "Good heavens!" I exclaimed. "You are Mr. Sherlock Holmes?" "And you, sir?" he replied with a flourish of his cloak. "Are just out of India, unemployed, and due to give a lecture on the radio." Now, what we find, Bond realized that he was not much aware about the village life. When he decided to visit India House to collect more information about the country, he realized that he had walked far away from the Baker Street. While sailing in his own thoughts, he found himself in Regent's Park, from where he did not know where to move. Bond saw there a tall man leaning over a flower bed. He moved to him and gently asked the way to go out of the place. But in reply, the man put a question, that how he entered there. Bond was completely surprised with the appearance of that man. He identified the man as Sherlock Holmes, the detective. Sherlock Holmes also identified him as an unemployed man to whom BBC commissioned to give a lecture on the radio. But, how did you know all that?" I stammered. "You have never seen me before. I suppose you know my name too?" "Elementary, my dear Bond, the BBC notepad in your hand, on which you have been scribbling, reveals your intention to give a talk. Your name is on the envelope, which you hold upside down behind it. It's at 10 o'clock in the morning, and if you were not unemployed, you would be sitting in an office." "And how do you know I'm from India?" I said a trifle resentfully. "Your accent," said Holmes with a smile. I was about to turn away and leave him when he laid a restraining hand on my shoulder. "Stay a moment," he said. "Perhaps you can help me. I'm surprised at Watson. He promised to be here 10 minutes ago. I wonder what keeps him." "In what way I can help you?" I asked, feeling flattered that the great man had condescended to take my help. Now, what we find, that Bond was surprised that Holmes knew almost everything about him. Actually, it was nothing special except his attentive and observant behavior. As we know, Holmes is a well-known detective. He noticed his name on the BBC envelopes, which Bond was holding in his hand, and his nationality from his accent. He also noticed that he was roaming in the park at 10 a.m. in the morning, in spite of working in an office, which showed that he was unemployed. After that, Holmes asked him to stop for a moment and observe the flower bed. "Take a look at this," said Holmes, going down on his knees near the flower bed. "Do you notice anything odd?" "Somebody is being pulling out daffodils," I said. "Excellent, Bond. Your power of observation are as good as Watson's. Now tell me What else do you see? The ground is a little trampled, that's all. By what? A human foot, and yes, a dog has been here too. It's been helping to dig up the bulbs. You astonished me, Bond. You are quicker than I thought. Now, shall I explain what all this is about? You see, for the past week, someone has been stealing daffodils from the park, and the authorities have asked me to deal with the matter. I think we shall catch our culprit this afternoon. I was rather disappointed. It isn't very dangerous, is it? So, what we find that Sherlock Holmes requested Bond to help him. So, Bond observed that someone has been pulling out daffodils while leaving the ground little crushed. He also noticed that along with the human food, a dog also had helped in the same. Holmes praised his strong power of observation as he was surprised that it was similar to Watson. Holmes shared that the authorities wanted him to catch the culprit and he was hoping to do so by the afternoon, while Bond thought it was very dangerous. Ah, my dear Bond, the days are past when Eurytanian princes lost their diamonds and duchesses their tiaras. There are no longer any Eurytanian princes in existence, and duchesses cannot afford tiaras. The more successful criminals have legalized their activities, and the East End has been cleaned up. And those cretins at Scotland Yard don't even believe in my existence. I'm sorry to hear that, I said. But who do you think is stealing the daffodils? Obviously, it is someone who owns a dog. Someone who takes a dog out regularly for a morning walk. That points to a woman. A woman in London is likely to keep a small dog, and judging from the animal's footprint, it must be either a Pekingese or a miniature Pomeranian. What I suggest, Bond, is that we conceal ourselves behind those bushes and wait for the culprit to come along. She is sure to come again this morning. She has been stealing daffodils for the past week. And stealing daffodils, like many practices of a similar nature, becomes a habit. Here, Holmes agreed that the current job was not dangerous, and he gave a few instances of the way times had changed. In the olden days, Eurytanian princes and duchesses who lost their diamonds and tiaras would go to private detectives for help, but they are no more. He further added that the Scotland Yard, where Holmes had once enjoyed respect, didn't acknowledge his existence. So now he had to take up ordinary cases like the stealing of daffodils. Bond now questioned that whom he suspected stealing daffodils. Holmes answered that it is someone owning a dog whom he takes out regularly for morning walk. He thought it could be a woman having either a Pekingese or a miniature Pomeranian. He further suggested to hide behind the bushes and wait for woman this morning, since she had been stealing the daffodils from the past week, and now it would have become one of her habit. Holmes and I crept behind the bushes and settled down to a long wait. After half an hour, our patience was rewarded. A large, elderly woman in a green hat came walking stealthily across the grass, followed by a small white pom on a lead. Holmes had been right. More than ever, I admired his brilliance. We waited until the woman began pulling the daffodil bulbs out, and then Holmes leapt from the bushes. "Ah, we have you, madam!" he cried, springing up on her so swiftly that he shrieked and dropped the daffodils. I sprang out after Holmes, but my effort was rewarded by a nip in the leg from the outraged Pomeranian. Holmes held the woman by the shoulders. I don't know what frightened her more, being caught or being confronted by that grim visaged countenance with its cloak and hunting cap. "Now, madam," he said firmly, "why were you stealing daffodils?" So, dear students, in this paragraph, what we find that Holmes and Bond crept behind the bushes and settled down to a long wait. After half an hour of patience, an elderly woman in green hat walked across the grass secretly with a small white pom. Bond was impressed by Holmes' brilliance. As the woman started plucking the flowers, Holmes jumped out of the bushes and screamed at the woman. This made her so much scared that she dropped the flowers and stood in surprise, while Bond was gifted with a small bite on his leg by the Pomeranian. Bond has also confused that what made the woman more scared, being found guilty or the Holmes' appearance. Holmes asked the woman the reason for her deed. She had begun to weep, and I thought Holmes was going to soften, but that was not to be. "I would be obliged, Bond, if you would call the park attendant," he said to me. I hurried off towards a greenhouse and after a brief search found a gardener. "Stealing daffodils is she," he said, running up at the double, a dangerous looking rake in one hand. But when we got to the daffodil bed, I couldn't find the lady anywhere, nor was Holmes to be seen. I was overcome by doubt and embarrassment. But then I looked at the ground and saw a number of daffodils scattered about the place. "Holmes must have taken her to the police," I said. "Holmes?" said the gardener. "Who's Holmes?" "Sherlock Holmes, of course, the celebrated detective. Haven't you heard of him?" The gardener looked at me with increasing alarm. "Sherlock Holmes, eh? And you will be Dr. Watson, I suppose." So, what we can see here, that as the woman started crying, Bond assumed that Holmes would get soft, but he was wrong. Holmes asked him to call the park attendant. Bond ran towards the greenhouse and found the gardener, to whom he narrated the whole story. As they ran towards the daffodil bed, they found no one there, and the flowers still lying on the grass. Bond assumed that the lady had taken by Holmes to the police. The gardener was surprised to hear about Sherlock Holmes and mocked the Bond, saying he must be Dr. Watson. I found my way out of Regent's Park eventually, feeling that Holmes had let me down a little. Then, just as I was crossing Baker's Street, I thought I saw him on the opposite curb. He was alone looking up at the lighted room, and his arm was raised as though he was waving to someone. I thought I heard him shout, "Watson!" but I was not sure. I started to cross the road, but a big red bus came out of the fog in front of me, and I had to wait for it to pass. When the road was clear, I dashed across. But by that time, Holmes had gone, and the rooms above were dark. So, at the end, what we find that the Bond tried to explain to the gardener, but before he could do so, the gardener left. He finally found the way out of Regent's Park, still having a feel that Holmes fooled him. As he was crossing Baker Street, he saw Holmes at the other side of the road, waving to someone up at the lighted room and shouting, "Watson!" But what was not sure about what he saw, but he tried to cross the road to meet Holmes. In the midway, a big red bus came out of nowhere, and when the bus passed away, Holmes was disappeared, and the room had gone dark. At the end, Bond was left confused about what actually happened throughout the day. And that's all about the story of the Daffodil Case. Thank you and goodbye.